better as a result of social media presence.
If it doesn't do those three things, then it's on the chopping block.
It's a return on investment discussion.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Daily Dealer Live. I'm your host, Sam Dark, and welcome to this space where automotive comes together to learn, to share, to grow. Thanks for choosing to be here on this Friday, November 21st. And guess what? It's Fixed Ops Friday. I'm so excited to get going today. But first off, let's jump into industry headlines on this Friday, the 21st. First up today, Prestige Financial Services, this is big news, is exiting the auto loan origination business and shifting fully into service-only model, this according to a dealer memo obtained by CDG News. The lender, owned by Larry H. Miller Company, says it will fund any contracts already submitted or in transit through the end of the month, but all new applications stop this week. There's also unconfirmed chatter online that Prestige carried out a sizable layoff on November 3rd, reportedly close to 100 employees across multiple departments, including some tenured staff, which would make sense if they're stopping taking apps. However, Prestige hasn't responded to requests for comment. However, in the memo, Prestige thanked dealers for more than 30 years of partnership and said the decision came after, quote, careful consideration, emphasizing that servicing for existing customers will continue. What's the bottom line here? Well, another regional lender stepping back from originations adds to an already uneasy picture, with multiple non-bank lenders suspending operations or shutting down entirely this year. Dealers are becoming more exposed to private sector credit instability. So fascinating, and more reliant on a shrinking pool of active financing partners. Next up today, dealers are still seeing some good buying activity, strong lead volume, steady showroom traffic, but the sticking point continues to be affordability. Even though the Fed cut rates by 25 basis points at the end of October, auto loan rates actually moved higher, and most consumers don't know that this isn't a one-to-one translation. Kelley Blue Book says the average new car APR hit 9.41% in September and then climbed another 19 basis points in October. Lenders also pulled back on subvented programs, so the, quote, rate relief buyers keep hearing about in the headlines just isn't showing up yet in the dealership. And consumers are reacting. J.D. Power's latest financing study shows nearly 29% of borrowers now fall into the, quote, financially vulnerable category. Scary. As J.D. Power's Patrick Rosenberg puts it, communication and clarity are where lenders and dealers can move the needle most right now. What's the bottom line here? Well, a few lenders loosened credit standards in October, but with APR still ticking up, affordability remains the number one brake on sales. Next up today, and this is interesting, continues our interesting news for today. Carvana just quietly bought San Diego Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram store in Mission Valley, California. It's Carvana's first new dealership in the city and its third franchise acquisition since February. All Stellantis stores, by the way. They picked up a CDJR store in Casa Grande, Arizona in June, and another one in Dallas this past September. CDG News reached out to Carvana to understand the acquisition strategy, but spokespeople for the company declined to provide any more information. What comes next? Where will they acquire next? Obviously, it's part of a pattern, in my own personal opinion. And finally up today, dealer service retention, because it is Fixed Ops Friday, is slipping, and independents appear to be scooping up the business. A new Cox Automotive report shows more drivers are drifting towards local repair shops, quick lube chains, and mobile techs, and a lot of that defection is happening with vehicles that are 5 years old and newer. Dealerships still pulled in more than $156 billion in 2024, with service and parts making up about 13% of that, but they're now handling 12% fewer service visits than they did in 2018. And in 2025, only 54% of owners with cars 2 years old or newer went back to the store where they bought the vehicle. That's down sharply from 72% just 2 years ago. And as we all know, owners who service at the dealership are far more likely to buy their next car there. But more than half of customers who need a major repair are open to trading in, never get an appraisal conversation at all, which makes me crazy from a operation standpoint. Bottom line, service retention won't rebound on its own. Dealers win when every service visit is treated as a relationship moment, not just a repair order. And interestingly enough, these are all topics we're about to have. And that's a wrap on today's industry news. And everybody, we're going to talk about it today. It's Fixed Ops Friday. Yuli, what's up?
Sam, I got to say, man, I am excited to be here. And not only
I'm excited to be here
because it's Fixed Ops Friday, but
it is
also
Fixed Ops
because
Friday.
it's your birthday.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy. It is. Man. Guilty. Oh my gosh. There we go. I love it. This is that famous photo from way back when. Thank you, Yuli, for remembering my trip around the sun or whatever it works to. 51. Can you believe it? Is that okay to say on this show? Can I say that?
You look 21.
We were talking in the green room before the show started. I remember being the youngest guy in the room, both in car sales and finance and leadership and then in insurance. At some point, we all pivoted. How did that happen, Yuli?
I don't know. It's one of those things I don't have the answer for.
Yeah, you're still the youngest guy in the room.
All
right. As a reminder to everybody out there, everybody joining the live stream, we're live across all CDG social media platforms. Post your comments in on this Fixed Ops Friday. We'll bring them into today's show. And what a day and what a show we have in store. We're going to talk about all things fixed ops. So let's dive into it. I just got a note. Who are we starting with, Yuli? Help me keep straight here. Kevin. Yeah. So let's go down. Kevin, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, no, he's muted.
Honored to be able to share the limelight with you on your birthday.
Perfect.
Hey, thank you. Yeah. It's a fun thing. So, Kevin, tell us a little bit about yourself while I'm working to get that part of the spreadsheet up here. I'm having a little bit of a technical difficulty, I guess. I don't know what the deal is, but tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Going on 32 years in fixed operations, ran as many as 14 stores at once. Right now we're doing 5, getting ready to build 6. Been in Florida my entire life up until the last year here. We moved to the Houston area back here in January and couldn't be happier. Got
That's awesome.
A beautiful family that has been supportive of me, a wife that's a controller that has retired after 27 years and allowed us to make this move.
That's awesome. We're in Florida.
Central Florida, Orlando area for the most part.
Orlando. Okay,
yes,
very good. Well, how's biz in your dealership there? How is business in the in fixed ops? Kevin?
It's been absolutely amazing. This market is so untapped compared to the Florida market from where we're at with a lot of these manufacturers that we're with. And we have seen anywhere in the last 7 to 8 months that we've been doing is increases anywhere from 12% to 33% month over month on everything that we're doing. And it's using the same people that we have right now, just training and teaching different cultures is all it is.
So for the audience watching, as key takeaways, what are a couple of the things that today are working to drive that increase that you're experiencing today?
I think leadership is number one for them, right? Utilizing the staff that we have and arming them with the opportunities to succeed with the staff that we have. Implementing new tools. We have gone away from the old DMS sides and switched over to Techion over the past 2 to 3 weeks for their forward and future thinking. And then also implementing AI across the board for all of our stores. Increasing that, I think, has been the 2 biggest areas for us.
So, Kevin, who did you switch from and where did you go to in the DMS change?
We switched from Reynolds, and it was a tough situation here because they've been on it for 30 years. And this is my 3rd DMS switch in 15 years. So this is easy for me, but not for everybody else. And you have to understand that. And this team and this group here has done a fantastic job owning this and learning it. And it's been great. And we're going to Techion right now.
I would tell you, Kevin, I think the DMS change is one of the most terrifying changes for a GM, for a dealer principal, for the office, and for folks back in fixed ops, because so much, all of your data resides in that DMS, and transitioning from one platform to the next is a big lift. What's one thing that surprised you that you didn't know during the transition, and then one big benefit that you walked away with now that you're on the other side of it?
I think the biggest thing that I would take away from it is not understanding the impact it's going to have on every single employee and every single department, right? As much, again, this is my third and this is their first after 30 years. So a lot of these people have been here for 30 years. So it's all they've known. But the big takeaway that is going to be crucial is the amount of data that is available for us now that we didn't have before in live time and easier to get to.
Yeah. What was there one particular component of the Techion platform that made you say, hey, we want this, we see the benefit of it, the value? You mentioned AI. Is it AI? Is it a capability that you gained with that?
100%. Yeah, I think it's the AI portion that Techion is building in their background, also with what we're doing. So a lot of the changes that we wanted to create inside the company, we wanted to form it around whatever DMS provider we were going to be going with. So once we figured that out, we started to move everything else along the line to encompass that entire DMS platform. And then what we're going to be doing over the next couple of years is going to be fantastic.
One thing we've talked. Oh, go ahead, Yuli.
Sorry, Kevin. You mentioned culture. You mentioned training. And you mentioned the buzzword everyone's talking about right now. You've also implemented AI. Walk us through that. What tools are you using first? And then how is that with your team and what results are you seeing?
I think first we'll go back to, we talked about this a little earlier. One of your conversations you had the other day with Zach, I think is with his sports mentality for what he brings to the table. He's fantastic in that interview. Who has not seen it needs to absolutely look at that and watch it. He's very powerful for what he's able to do. But the sports mentality of coaching that and teaching that and training that with your staff that you're doing, but also bringing the hospitality. And I think that's where this auto industry has missed the boat over the past 15 years. It's not automotive. It is hospitality at its finest. And I was very fortunate in Florida to work and be able to train under a lot of companies. And the two biggest ones that we had was the Disney culture, right? And then the Ritz-Carlton. Right. So those two encompassing that and teaching everybody here to stop worrying about all the automotive industry things that we have done in the past and move it more towards hospitality, and everything else will fall in line. And then you bring in the AI function of that, which is what I've been working with some of these vendors. And I'm able to help build these systems to the way that I want it to act for our guests and create that guest experience that they've never had before. Yeah.
So it's interesting. We talked with Zach on the show about the CDK stat about hold times in service departments. And we talked with Don Hall about it too last week. Somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes is the average wait time. Was it 8 or 9, I think, of customers calling in, which is crazy to me, right? What do you think of that stat? Is that something that holds true in your group? And what are you doing to fix that? It seems to me a crazy long time for any customer to wait. And for that to be an average in the automotive industry is astonishing to me.
Agree 100%. And I think that's one of the reasons why I think companies and dealers need to be focusing more on the AI function of it, not to replace people, because that's not what it's designed to do. But the people, and my owner brought this back with one of his 20 groups that was saying it, AI is not meant to replace anybody, right? But people that are using AI will be replacing those type of things, right? Because they're going to be more productive and more efficient, which is what we're doing. So I'm averaging anywhere from 500 to 700 calls a day between the rooftops that we have. And I can see those live time for what we're doing. Just in the 2.5 weeks we've implemented the IVR, I'm looking at 7,900 calls and 485 total appointments we've generated from that.
Wow.
And then listening and spot checking about 200 plus calls a day between the departments and getting it to the right people. We're able to adapt and adjust to those in live time.
So as the director of fixed ops, are you the guy that's doing that vetting of those calls? Are you doing that on a regular basis, or are you training your leadership team to do that?
Well, for right now, I've taken on the task of implementing the AI for the company to get it to where it needs to go. And then slowly we'll start dismantling that out to the department heads where they're at. But right now, I want to make sure that it can get to the expectations that I want delivered, not somebody else. And once we get to that point.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
So to Yuli's question, what is the tech that you're using to record and then monitor and listen to those calls to ensure they're handled well?
So we started off about 7 months ago on the SMS side of things, and that was utilizing Matador. And their platform has been fantastic for the SMS side of it, right? And then once we knew we were going to Techion, I wanted to find that actually fully integrates with Techion. And Pam brought that to the table. So Pam HQ.
Oh no.
We lost him.
Just us for your birthday, my friend. It was getting good right there. We'll have to bring him back so we can talk about this stuff.
Well, but let's, you know what, let's pull the thread for just a minute and we'll move on
sure.
to the next guest if he doesn't come back here in a minute. But that amount of time waited, according to CDK, is just crazy to me. But we know it's real because it's based on information that they've gathered. And it's something we've got to fix in automotive. And I agree. I think AI is going to be a solution to that. You look at Gen Z, and a lot of Gen Z just doesn't know how to have a great conversation on the phone. Call me out if I'm wrong in the comments. Tell me if I'm wrong on this. But I don't think Gen Z is not used to having a conversation on the phone. We've got to be trained to do that. But this is a great place where AI can help multiply our efforts without costing people jobs, without it.
You just said the key word, I
better
think.
To the customer.
It's a force multiplier if you utilize it correctly. And then I think the most frustrating part of that is that 6-minute wait time. A lot of times you don't get connected to the right person that can actually answer your questions.
Yeah.
So I think the utilization of AI, and now that Kevin is back and we'll bring him back into the room, the utilization of AI is going to, I think speed up that process and get those softball questions answered without having to sit there and wait.
Kevin, welcome back.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
We missed you.
Yeah. So you said you're using Matador as your tech to monitor those, and you've been super thoughtful as you've gone over to Techion. So call recording, call monitoring, making sure that the customer has a great experience. What's another area of focus as you go through this transition, tech or AI related, that you're focusing on?
I guess one of the other biggest focus we're going to be talking about is tech training, right? Everybody has the biggest, tech shortage and everything else they've got going on. Here, we've got a different vision of what we're going to be building in 2026 and 2027 is we have our own facility over here, which is a Scrubway car wash and lube, and we're building 2 more with the stores that we're building and what we currently have. I'm going to start using those as our training platform and training against all of our different brands that we have. And then getting them fully up to speed for when we need technicians, we're pulling from there and then pulling people off the streets that are looking for jobs to help them on the entry level and then help grow them up as we need it as well.
What are some of the best qualifications for a great tech in your mind? Who are you looking for, and how are you bringing them into automotive?
Really depends. You have 2 different sides. You have the entry level right that is coming in. So I love those UTI guys that are going in with the programs. And then the GM ASEP students, when we were down in Florida, I was one of the largest providers for them to offer them an opportunity to come in. And there's still students to this day that have graduated that are becoming master techs and GM world class techs coming out of those programs. So I think that's a key portion of it. And then another portion of it is trying to, what are you going to do to attract all the seasoned techs that are looking for better opportunities. And that's where the culture comes into play and what sets you apart from everybody else, right? Because every dealership sells cars. Every dealership can service cars. The only difference between you and everybody else is your frontline staff and how well are they equipped to handle that.
Yeah, Eager K agrees with you on social. He says every dealership is experiencing shortages in quality tech personnel right now. So the winners are finding interesting and unique ways to recruit. Mustafa says, correct, Gen Z here. We grew up using apps and websites, so that phone training to that conversation is super important. And then Mustafa says, how do you manage your capacity and parts inventory as you scale throughout with demand? How do you manage your capacity and parts inventory? How would you answer that?
I'll tell you, that's another main reason why we switched to Techion, because it is fully customizable to how we want our store to run. And not these vendors trying to tell you in a box, this is how you should be running, which is the same portion of why we have switched over to PAM HQ for all of our IVR and our voicing, because it's fully customizable. I can do it the way that I want to do it. Same thing with the Techion. So if I want to set my skill levels up it starts from the appointment side for it, where it's going to go in, my capacity is inside, what I can allow for it. And then when my guys are off, we just adjust those back so we can hit.
Yeah. So you mentioned your background with Disney and your focus on culture. You often are quoted out there as talking about the difference between a guest and a customer. Talk to us in fixed ops and in your service department world. What's the importance of guest versus customer, and why do you lean so heavily into the guest instead of customer mentality?
It's a better combination for our guests, right? Instead of saying customer, you have customers in the world, right? Guest sounds more elaborate. It's elevated into their game. Same thing with people still call their porters. They're valets, right? They're constantly moving. So it is, you know, be ambassadors. You can make all these different changes where it's at, but at the end, the result is, are they taking that title or that role and actually doing something with it? Are they opening doors for the guests, right? What is that guest experience? It's not coming in and doing your day-to-day job. Everybody's doing that. When you're pulling a car up, is the car open? Is the AC on? Is there a water bottle in? Did we replace the radio? Walk them out. Mr. Customer, please have a seat. Pull out your phone. Let's go ahead and reconnect your phone to make sure everything's good. Those are the guest experiences, what sets us apart from everyone else.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. Words matter, right? And so the difference between guest and customer elevates our team's engagement, I think is what you're saying. And I'm hearing you say, and words matter as we engage with our employees and customers. In automotive, we have so much slang for customers and ups and laydowns and pounders and this, that, like
slang
it's crazy. Yeah. And it's not helpful when we're trying to create a culture. So props to you for engaging with your teams to do that, in particular in the fixed ops world. So you've got Chevy, you've got Kia, you've got Stellantis, you've got Ford. What are you doing out? And what else?
And
do you have?
Mazda.
And you have Mazda. Yep. Is there an OEM that's helping you more than another with not only delivering this different experience to your customer, but engaging with your teams on training? Is there anybody that's ahead in that?
I think the two biggest ones we have right now is Chevy and Kia. I think they're at the forefront of being able to focus on what is most important for the guest. I think they bring a lot more tools that they have at their disposal inside their OEMs, like Global Connect. We have the service views. All the data that's in there is great, but if you don't know how to extract it and use it properly, it's just another tool, right? And that's where these dealers have got to go in. I think that's what we do extremely well, because we're absolutely looking at data all day long.
Yeah. Christian Meyer says, what systems do you have in play to cover your after hours traffic? So phone calls, emails, text messages, conversations that way.
100% PAM HQ right now. Abdullah and Sammy and the team over there have been amazing. We have built this and it is fully integrated with Tekion. So anything after hours, it's scheduling it directly into our Tekion scheduler. If it can't take it, it's taking that message and alerting our team, depending on the department, sends it out, and then we're getting it either in live time if they're up on it, or they're getting it first thing in the morning in their box.
So recalls are a huge issue right now in the world. You've got Ford, which is the highest recalled OEM for this year, but you've also got others that are just experiencing higher recalls than normal. How are you addressing recalls and servicing customers with that using technology? Are you using anything interesting or special there?
Tell you what, it is 100%. When I took over these, we went ahead and got rid of all these third-party vendors that were spending on marketing, right? And I focused everything into AI. And we're sending out anywhere from 5 to 8 email or text message blasts all day long to recalls. And Chevy store alone, we're at 83% completion rate. So I'm running out of recalls in my area from what I'm getting to, and I'm waiting for new ones to come in, right? Taking that same approach to the rest of the manufacturers we have, but it's downloading those lists from the OEM, pulling it out, and just communicating, and these customers are responding like wildfire when they get a text message.
Yeah. All right, last question up. Tully has been on in the past on Fixed Ops Friday. Yuli, we've had some great conversations with him from the Nilo Group. He leans into retention as being one of the most important metrics in his world. And he actually tries to get their sales department and variable to not sell customers outside their area because he wants to own every single customer they sell and take care of them in their own geography. So that's him and his world. What's the number one or two most important metrics in your world?
Guest experience is going to be number one, but that falls right into line with what he was discussing too with retention. I think retention is where all these OEMs should be going towards instead of CSI. So retention is really what you're looking at. And again, I'll pick on our Chevy store right now. We're pushing the envelope at almost getting to 90% retention on our service view numbers from what we're at for retaining the customers for their first service visit. And we're close to 70, 71% is what we're trying to get to on our 18 to 72 months. So it's constantly hammering that. And the AI has been a major portion with that.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we absolutely appreciate you being on the show. Kevin Stuckey, Platform Director, Fixed Operations, Parkway Family Auto Group. Thanks for being on the show and sharing your perspectives and giving us an education on all the things you're doing here. We
Pleasure, guys. Absolutely an honor. Thank you, and happy birthday again.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Hey,
Thanks,
what a
Kevin.
great way to spend a birthday. With
I agree.
All our friends, 4,000 or 5,000 watching live, and then whoever will watch in overtime. But before we get too excited on that, let's talk about escalating fines and enforcement actions. Escalating fines and enforcement actions are hitting dealers hard. KPA's complete compliance suite protects you from every compliance risk while helping to reduce insurance premiums and liability exposure. Learn more at kpaa.io/automotive. You can scan the QR code as well. Or if you're in the podcast recording post live, you can go down into the show notes, click on it. But we absolutely appreciate KPA supporting today's content, including that incredible conversation just now with Kevin, learning about all things AI and Techion in his world and a bunch of other tools that he's using not only to increase retention, but guest experience. So props to you. You know, Yuli, it's interesting. He's in Orlando. Like, that's the home of Disney.
He moved. He started in Orlando, in Texas now.
Yeah. But in Orlando, do you think the expectation is higher because of Disney and because of all the schools that they do teaching and training with dealers? I know GM has the program where they go and they learn at Disney. You know,
it's got to be. I mean, they literally created an underground city. So nothing. We used to have in our meetings every morning. I'll never forget this. 21 years ago when I started, we had a sign as you were leaving the conference room. It said, "Smile, you're on stage." And I would imagine it's the same thing at every door behind closed doors in Disney, where it's like, hey, listen, you're going out, you're going to be guest facing, smile, put on a show. It's time. I would definitely imagine being in Orlando, there's a big emphasis on that type of training and culture.
Yeah. And then how do we, you know, when I think about those words, social media right now is just alight with everybody's giving their own version of some of the slang we see out there. So as an example, Eager K Superfan, he says, tire kicker, waste my time, lots of labels for customers. And that's only the beginning. We're seeing a ton of it on social on today's
there's
show.
A lot of not so nice ones, unfortunately.
Yeah, and listen, those words hurt our industry. We have got to eradicate it. I think one of the things Subaru does great as an OEM, we're going to have Jeff Walters on in a future episode. Subaru is super intentional about avoiding those words. And I think some of the best dealerships in the country are intentional about the words they use with customers and with their own employees. You can't be one way with a customer on the showroom floor and then go behind a closed door and talk another way. You've got to be authentic and you've got to be transparent start to finish, Yuli.
You know, that's one of the biggest things. You took the words out of my mouth. So customers are there once every few years. We're there every day. And you love the camaraderie in a dealership, right? Yeah. I mean, it's a guys and gals club. You're having a lot of fun. But the issue is, if you walk into a sales tower or an office and you rip a joke with someone and it's totally harmless, totally meaningless, has nothing to do with the customer, you might be dealing with a customer who might be credit challenged and hears laughter after you walk into the room. And now they might think, are they laughing at me? You know, it's really so important that we treat everyone with an elevated experience.
I know. So you've got to help the customer be more comfortable. But I would also argue that it's equally as important with our employees, because how we talk with our employees and our teams filters down to the end customer. And like having that consistent start to finish, I would love somewhere, we should do like this movement, right? Getting rid of all automotive industry slang, you know, and finding a way to make it better, more authentic, forward facing.
Yeah.
And guess where is a great place to start that conversation? We talked about it yesterday or last time on the show, Wednesday. Car Dealership Guy is back with our second annual NADA party. That'll be the place where this could start happening in Las Vegas, Thursday, February 5th. And it's the hottest ticket at NADA 2026 with special guests and top automotive personalities. To be considered for that formal invite, hit the link in the show notes, request to join, and fill out a questionnaire. Spots are limited, and unfortunately, we can't invite everyone. So RSVP today as we hope to see you in Vegas. We talked Wednesday with Yossi on the show, the car dealership guy, about it's the conversations we'll have there at NADA. They're going to ultimately help our businesses. And maybe that's one we could start there as well. Eager K Superfan says 100% agreeing with changing the way we talk in automotive and the verbiage we use. So fun, interesting conversation. All right, let's go to next. Fixed Ops Friday continues. The march rolls on. Dave Rogers, Director of Fixed Operations, Piazza Auto Group. Dave, welcome to the show.
Hey, Dave.
Hey, great. Thanks for having me today. And happy birthday, Sam.
Thank you. It's super nice getting everybody.
A real Fixed Ops Friday. 2 guests, both fixed ops. Who would have thunk?
That's right.
Who would have thunk? By the way, that is the definition of Fixed Ops Friday. Some people are like, why are you guys so focused on Fixed Ops on Friday? Listen, Fixed Ops is one of the most overlooked profit centers in all of automotive. And it baffles me how it happened. So we're like, Fixed Ops, we're going to do it on Fridays as much as we can because it makes us happy and we want to. So, Yuli, first question. What's our first question for Dave?
Dave, how's biz?
Yeah, business has been good. October, new record month for Fixed Ops all around. Thrilled to death with the progress the team's made and all the stores we have made. We had a little bit of a challenge, a hiccup with the JLR hack outage affected some parts and stuff, but I think you can't expect perfection. I got 30 stores, 17 franchises. They're not all going to be perfect at the same time, right? It's just not going to fire that way. So, but
how is
the team record-breaking month?
How's the JLR thing working out for you? Like,
it's good.
Any impact still?
There's an impact with vehicles. They're not getting their, they didn't have any orders go through for the last couple of months. Parts are starting to trickle in. Most of the systems are online. I think they're going to just start doing CSI surveys again. So, we don't miss that part. Obviously, we don't care about that as much as we care about parts and cars. So.
Yeah.
How are you guys navigating that with the customers? I mean, if you weren't able to get parts to service their vehicles, you're dealing with you're dealing with a luxury clientele. So how does that play out?
Well, we're fortunate. We have 3 JLR stores and 1 standalone Land Rover store. So we have that inner, we can buy parts from each other, which was very helpful. They did a pretty good job. I'm going to give JLR some credit. They had, they brought out the old phones, faxes, emails. I mean, they did old school to get parts deliveries. And so we accomplished what we needed to accomplish, but there was a couple back order parts and stuff. Customers, I think, understood. We didn't have really too much of a problem.
I love it. We see that you're a CDG Circles member, so thank you for that. You were an early adopter. We need to make sure that everyone else signs up so they don't have to wait until the end of the first quarter in 2026. So I heard Sam talking about this Circles thing. So I sent a message to Yossi. I'm like, yo, what's this message thing? And he's getting all mad at me. It's for owners, dealer principals. I'm like, oh man, that's cold. But now they open it up to us lowly Fixed Ops guys. It's great to hear. Lowly Fixed Ops guys running 30 stores.
Yeah.
So you say you're always perfecting the basics. And obviously, it's not your first time around here. But when you say perfecting the basics, what did you actually change on the day-to-day in the service drive?
I think sometimes we get caught up in new stuff. You get caught up in some technology, you get caught up in, this chasing the shiny object, and, you forget, right? Basics, make sure we set appointments, make sure we have make sure we have our appointment systems everyone's using the same platform. Make sure we're confirming the appointments, right? Calling the no-shows. One of the things I circled back around recently is, how about making their next appointment for the customer? Like a dentist does, the doctor does. Like guys forgot, like we used to do that years ago. Yeah. And now we have the technology, you have the tools to do it. I mean, we use CDK service in a lot of my stores. There's actually a big button on the screen. Next appointment. Takes you out 6 months. Make that next appointment. So, we've been chasing that really for the last year, been just honing back in on the basics and doing a good multi-point, making sure it gets presented to the customer, tracking that, tracking the videos, make sure they get sent to customers. So, I think it's making a big difference because I think we lose sight of it. You start chasing stuff, you start doing things, and dry eyes, right? It's, the store blindness thing. You forget about doing the basics.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Are you doing anything on the MPI side with videos, technician videos?
Yeah, we use videos. Most of our stores have a video platform, one way or the other, CDK, True Video, Dealer Logics.
So one thing in mentioning the CDG circles, and the circle I'm in with to your point, right, with other principals, dealers are using meta glasses to do that experience, which I'd never thought of that, but how cool is that? You put the sunglasses on, you hit record,
yes,
and then it automatically syncs back to the device. It goes over to the customer, and it allows the technician to be completely hands-free and perform their work, and it lets the customer see the technician's perspective. So you're doing something like that. What's your standard, or what's your percent of completion that you're requiring, or you're seeing?
Well, right now we're at around 70%. I mean, obviously we want to be 100, but 90. I think the other day when I looked, we're at 97% were sent, which was the best percentage we ever had. So the taking of the videos isn't where I want it to be, but at least we're sending them to the customers because you don't have that filtering going on too much. As far as the meta glasses, we have a couple guys that technicians that actually put in orders to get their own. I've talked to some of the service managers about getting them. I think it's a great idea. I really do think it's a great idea. So, that's technology that I really think, is going to be a game changer for the techs, because they're not, they're playing with their phones, and you get a lot of stuff with the manufacturers now, having your technicians take pictures of the VIN plate, take pictures of the bad part. They're doing all this stuff. We should have sent them to FIT to get a photography degree, how much pictures they're taking, right? But if you think about it, if they could have the glasses, that'd be great.
Yeah, the pictures don't really matter at the end of the day. You're dealing with 97, 98% of customers have never seen underneath their car. So it's a whole new world. So it's that dry eyes theory again. Just show them what it should look like and what you see now.
Let me propose something as a next step with the meta glasses. So the meta glasses are great, I think, because they will record, they'll take pictures. Next step, though, Meta, I think, just announced a version where there's actually kind of a display on the inside of the glass and you can actually see things. I think there'll be a world where you could connect with the service contract provider or the OEM, show, and then they could show you back. Like if there's an intricate repair or something you're supposed to do, you're trying to defuse a bomb and they're like, do not clip the red wire, clip the blue wire.
They can see it. Goggles.
Right. And then they can give it back to you. I mean, that's an exciting sort of evolution for a technician to provide assistance and also feedback, right?
Mm-hmm. That's been out there. That I saw that years ago. It was either at one of the European manufacturers, BMW, Mercedes, Porsche, and they had the guys with the glasses, and then technical assistants could see what they were doing. And there was actually at one of the conferences, it wasn't NADA, but it was like the BMW or Mercedes national thing, where they had the glasses were on, and they just took a passerby, and they said, "Here, take apart this power steering rack. The guy in your ear is going to tell you what to do, and then put it back together." Cool. And it was just cool. Some lady walking by. It was really awesome to watch. So
and it
never
worked.
Kicked off. Yeah, it worked, but I don't think it ever really took any traction. Like I haven't seen it since that a few years ago. But maybe the meta glass, maybe that's the problem. People it was goggles at the time. So
yeah. Well, and the rate at which technology evolves, it's interesting. Yes. There are moments where it's right to introduce a technology, and then there's moments where it's a little too early. And it seems to me one of the challenges is figuring out, like, has the technology evolved enough to lean into it, or is it still too much work? And maybe back then it was too much work, but I think as rapidly as some of that's evolving today, it probably makes sense to relook at. I have a question for you. You have an interesting background because you were a general manager, right? Mm-hmm. You were, and we talk about that. A fixed ops director who was a GM is a little bit of a unicorn because you've had that variable operations background. What are one or two messages you would give to a GM watching the show today on November 21st that might help them better work alongside fixed ops, better lean into fixed ops, get better net production out of fixed ops?
I think the one thing is try being, I think a lot of times the guys in the back don't know the general manager. General managers they're not comfortable being in the shop. They just don't feel like they're, part of the guys, We have a couple GMs that are real good at this. How about you park in the back of the building and walk in through the shop and say good morning to the guys, or walk in through shipping and receiving of parts and say good morning to the guys. Simple, not a complicated thing, but it will put you at the same level, which is I think what you have to do, right, with the guys in service. And then the other thing is look at KPIs and look at the store like you do look at sales, like you look at your CRM, right? You're going to look at your leads, your appointments, your shows, and your closing, right? So how about when you're talking to your service manager and your writers, how many appointments do you have today? How many showed up? How many no-shows did we call? How many hours did the shop turn today? I think GMs should just, like you're looking at how many cars you sold yesterday, new and used. Yeah. You're looking at your gross profit per, your finance. Usually every day you should know how much did we do, how did your advisors do yesterday, each one? How'd your tech production do? Just, I think the biggest thing is, and I know most GMs care, but their people don't know they care, right? And you got to show your techs. You really just have to show your techs. You just can't go back there, that madman, the crazy guy after a 20 group meeting and start screaming at one-line ROs of the death of a repair or the service department, or your hours per RO. You know what I mean? Yeah. That kind of stuff isn't going to make you the most popular guy. And I think a lot of GMs are afraid of service. They really are.
Why?
They don't know it.
Why are they? Why are they afraid of it?
Because I think it's. I think probably because we bamboozled them for years and we make it think like it's too complicated. But I just, in sales, most of the time the customer comes in and they're happy, right? Yeah. They're coming in to look to buy a car. In service, that's not always the case, right? Mm-hmm. So, when you're dealing with you're dealing with it's, I think you mentioned before with Disney, the people are at Disney, they're trying to be happy. They're, customers that walk into a dealership, a lot of times in service, they're pissed. They come in and they're not happy. So, and that mindset sometimes for the sales mentality, they just don't embrace it. So I know it's tough. I mean, there was things in sales I had to learn that I got to be honest with you. Some of the stuff aggravated me too. Like, the divas in finance, they just aggravated the crap out of me some days. Yeah. But you gotta learn how to deal with it. So
yeah. Well, and it is interesting because a lot of dealerships don't treat those service writers as salespeople similar to or the same as your front salespeople selling the cars. Service writers are actually technically more valuable. From a dollar standpoint, could be more valuable employees.
They're talking to way more people.
They're talking to more customers. They're dealing with, to your point, more complaints, more issues, and they're retaining customers to the dealership and the dealer group in a way that salespeople selling that car are not. Right, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, I got a lot of advisors, that are doing over $100,000 in gross profit a month, and that's not just the Highline stores. I got one guy that does $3 million a year in gross as a premium. A Highline service advisor. You got to look at the gross profit they're generating. Look at they're just not they're probably more income per advisor than any of your salespeople, and they're right up there with your F&I people. So yeah.
To that point though, why don't more people train their advisors? We spend so much time on the sales side, making sure that you got the right word tracks for the phone, the scripts But on the service side, you're talking to 10x the amount of customers. There should be a tremendous amount of emphasis on how to handle the customers and how to care, how to convey that message along. Why don't you think the industry embraces that?
I don't know. They don't pay attention to service and parts until they need it, right? I always tease everybody. They can't spell absorption until there's a crisis in the front end, right? Now they want to know what you're at every day. But last time I was on, we talked about, we do training. We've been doing training since, I joined the group almost 9 years ago. And I think it's key. You have to spend the money teaching them how to sell. Yes. Listen, they sell. You have to teach them how to close. But it is a weakness. And that's where I think these general managers that have sales background could be an asset. Come in the back. How about you walk around during rush hour, help move some cars, help answer some phones, and then maybe say, maybe we do need an extra valet back here. Mm-hmm. Hey, you know what? listen to the writers. Maybe they don't know how to sell. Maybe get them some sales training. You would do the same thing with a salesperson that wasn't following the road to the sale. So, so that's where I think you have to do. You do have to focus on the service advisors and their selling skills.
So some really good comments online supporting this commentary. And obviously this isn't a beatdown session on GMs. This is a great opportunity for us to learn, to grow, to take away, to figure out how to engage. Eager says GMs need to be more encouraging, show up more often, shop, personal, usually gets no attention from dealer principals and GMs. And I would also say, I think in some stores, not all, I think part of that disconnect is, you're doing the suit up front, you're doing a dress shirt, right? And I think sometimes, I know sometimes when some people go back into the shop, you just naturally feel a disconnect because it's just a different experience, right? And I think some of that can be perceived and some of that can be real. Next comment, and when let's see, service writers do the hardest job and are closest to the most customers. Unfortunately, they're never retained long enough. So I know we've talked about this in the past. When you engage with the service writers and you're doing training that is sales based, is there a system or a process that you're using that others might replicate? Any training that you're finding is really good, really beneficial?
Well, again, we started the Piazza Auto University. We partnered up with Steve Shaw Training. I know
that's
Sandy
right. We talked about that. Yeah, we talked about that. Yep, Steve's.
And we still do it. I mean, we keep doing it with the online training. I mean, the biggest thing is presenting the multi-point. We talk about pass or fail. That's our thing. We don't talk about the yellow. We think the yellow is a cop out. The only measurements on a multi-point are tires and brakes, and they could be marginal, right? You could be 5 millimeters on brakes or 5/32 on tires, and that's the yellow. But everything else on a car, it either passes or fails, right? And that's part of one of the things I've always noticed, and probably more so in the last few years, is the service advisors will back up. Well, it's yellow. You can wait till the next visit. Well, wait a second. If the manufacturer is pushing maintenance out, no, you need it now. You need it before your next maintenance is due, right? And I think that's one of the biggest things that you have to do. And the other thing is you have a lot of service advisors now that are young, maybe don't have the technical experience. You got to let them embrace Chat GPT. You got to let them embrace some of this stuff because they don't know what a tie rod is. They don't know what suspension is. And I think the videos help them too. We encourage them to look at the video from the technician so they know what they're talking about. So I think there's a lot of little pieces that go into it. I think advisors, it is a tough job. But if they're not producing and they're not selling, we're wasting a lot of money.
I think a lot of that pushback also when you're trying to, I don't want to call it upsell, but recommend a service that they're going to need between now and their next service. A lot of that pushback is always the time, right? You get people that are frustrated. They're like, no, I've been here too long. I'll just do it next time. What are you doing to attack that? Are you offering any kind of, are you putting people in loaners or are you driving them home?
We use loaners, we use Lyft, we have some stores that still have some shuttle vans. I mean, one of the biggest things, the manufacturer, all the volume ones always push express, right? Mm-hmm. And you have separate lanes. Well, let me tell you, customers get used to going to that express lane because they generally don't upsell, right? Because they're in a rush to try to turn you in an hour, right? So you have to slow it down a little bit. You got to get that multi-point done in the first 15 minutes, quarter time as they call it, right? Mm-hmm. You got to get in front of that customer because they give you an hour. That's the rule. The customer gives you an hour. So if you get to them in the first 15 minutes and say, hey, Yuli, car's in the shop, just so you know, we did the multi-point. It's going to need brakes, going to need tires. You're red. We got to get that done today. And they look at you with this, look, let me get your car. Let me get you out of here. Mm-hmm. You have a much better chance of selling that now than if you took the whole hour and hit them up after the hour's up.
Oh, yeah.
You ran out of time. So It's all in the timing when you do it. And it's a challenge. I mean, I think that burden that's put on the staff and Express makes it a challenge. And a lot of that's just outside influence, So we use all the tools. You have to use all the tools. But it's not easy. It's every day you're out there just trying to get a little bit better. Incremental growth is all you can do.
So I got a question kind of going to some of the news and industry trends that we see right now. So OEMs are pushing hard into direct customer relationships. And they're doing that right now through over their updates for things like recalls and whatnot, and even subscription-based maintenance alerts, all that. What threats or what opportunities do you see for dealers in 2026 and the rest of this year as OEMs pull more of that service communication upstream?
Yeah, I think you have to own your data, right? I mean, one of the challenges we have with the traditional DMSs is getting the data, and you have to be out there in front of the customers. One of the reasons why I say to my guys and girls is make that next appointment so that we're ahead of the curve. Like, I don't care what that light says. You need to change the oil twice a year, right? So I'm not.
It's such a battle. It's such a battle. It's crazy, and it's been a long battle. Yeah.
Well, because of the brainwash, and I mean, if you think about what's been happening for 20 years, everybody's been getting under pressure to follow the light, follow the light.
Yeah.
And the problem is that it's now hard to turn that Titanic ship, right, to get that thing back. But I think you got to take the initiative. You got to take the first step. I think the other thing is try to take care of everything when the car is there. If that car has an update, do it, right?
Yeah.
If there's, like, the manufacturer gets you. Like, we're not supposed to do work upsell warranty, right? So it's supposed to be that if the customer comes in and complains about this, then you could do this TSB, right? So you have to walk that fine line. But if we know that every E-Class that comes in the door needs an update, you got to start talking to the customer, because who looks like an idiot? We look like the idiots because we didn't do the update, right? So know your product, know what's out there. And again, since you are extending the maintenance, even for 6 months, you want to try to pick off as much of this stuff as possible. Because to your point, though, Sam, the dealership is left looking like the bad guy 9 out of 10 times from the narrative, from the OEs, from the public, from all these experts out there. And we're not necessarily the bad guys, and we didn't necessarily cause most of these problems. So, you guys know you're in a dealer world, and we keep our mouths shut most of the time. That's why I love the show, by the way. It's getting out there, but it's a positive for the business. It's a positive for the business. Is what we need in this car business.
Yeah, we talk about a lot of the things that others are uncomfortable talking about. So when you think about next year, 2026, and your role as director of fixed ops in such a large group, what's a profit center that you see as emerging in fixed ops that maybe other groups aren't seeing or aren't capitalizing on?
I think mobile service, we're going to expand on it. We have 3 trucks going right now. 4 trucks, actually. We have one store has two trucks out. I think we need to bring it to some of the other brands. I think, there's always been this thing, like when you go to the BMW show, the NAC, they got a Ford Transit. They're using a Ford Transit, right? So I'm like, well, I want to use one of my Mercedes Sprinters. And they're like, no, they give you a hard time. I'm like, no, I'm going to use a Sprinter. So we have to overcome some of those obstacles about using a different truck. But I think JLR, we could use a Defender. We could use some of that stuff.
So they don't want the Sprinter. Well, if Ford is telling you they won't pay for the Sprinter. Ford. Interesting.
Yeah. No, the BMW store, the BMW NAC, they want me to use a Ford. I'm like, I'm not using a Ford. I'll use a Sprinter. But I think that's a big opportunity. I think that, obviously you want to make sure you run your business in store the best way. But the one thing we've noticed with the mobile that I don't really hear being talked about a lot is if you can pick off those 1.5 hour jobs and not have the customer come into the service department, it makes the rest of your shop a little more productive, right? They're not dealing with some of that. It takes the same amount of time to write that RO up, the same time to road test the car, all those other back end operation things. So that's been working in our Mercedes stores that use it good, and it's I think it's a next level next year.
As you're growing your remote service business, is there a certain type of technician that is better at remote service than another? Like it takes a different approach to the business, to be in a vehicle, to drive around, to go from site to site. You're not sitting there waiting for jobs.
And be talking with the customer face to face.
Right. Yeah. No, it's that's probably the biggest challenge. You need to have a champion in the service department to book the appointments and steer that work towards the mobile van. But that technician, I mean, we've had roadside techs for a while, but you got to be like the pool guy that comes to your house, the lawn guy that, you talk to, it's got to be that kind of guy, and or girl. They have to be, can't be afraid to talk, and they probably can't be over technical. So it is
Yeah.
a challenge. We've gone through a few people to get the right person, but if you keep looking like anything else in this business, if you make your focus on it, like Kevin said before, he's taken ownership on the AI, right? You got to be the champion. You got to take ownership, and you got to find the right person for the job.
Yeah. Yeah. So last question up, Honda is famously stopped production of vehicles for a little while due to the Nexperia chip shortage. And it seems to be that all things chips impact automotive, right? Both from part and supply component availability, but then also just the vehicles themselves. Have you seen any supply disruptions at any of the OEMs as a result of the chip shortage or even overall parts shortage? Or are things getting better, Dave?
I think things are getting better. There's periodic outages and shortages as it goes along, but nothing in particular that I've heard for the chips. I think one thing that people haven't talked about a lot is the amount of price increases that the manufacturers have been dumping on us. And it's been going on 4 years now, and it seems like every quarter you're getting appreciation on your parts tape. You're getting prices increasing. I don't know if it's tariff driven. I don't know if it's greed, but this has been going on since 2021. And when they talk about the affordability issue, it's not. I know there's some dealers out there at $450 an hour. I get it, but we don't dictate the price increases that are coming through the parts end. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges going forward. Is we started looking at aftermarket parts. We started looking at giving people alternatives. And trying to work with Napa or trying to work with the local parts depots, because $450 for an alternator on a Honda, right? $250 for an aftermarket. I mean, we got to give customers an option, and you hate to say it, but I'm not losing a job just because I can't be competitive. And
so do you explain that price difference between the aftermarket and the OEM? Is that just profit to the OEM, or is it just different quality material, or what is the pricing difference? Because that is
It's a little of both, but if you do research and you look, every manufacturer out there, parts is one of the most profitable divisions. They don't announce it, but if you read through their statements, if you look at their quarterly returns or issue, their quarterly what do they call it, earnings calls, and you listen, parts is one of the most profitable centers for all the manufacturers. Yeah. They don't have a problem marking up parts, and I'm just using that example. I mean, I'm sure I could find a bazillion other examples on prices, but there's times when a customer has a car that's 10 years old, and you hear about it all the time how much we stink at retaining customers right after they go out of warranty. But again, if you come into my store and you got a 7-year-old Honda Accord, and I tell you it's going to be $900 for an alternator, and I'm charging $150, $200 an hour, but you're priced out of the market, right?
Yeah,
power
you've got to give
racks,
that
$2,000.
Yeah,
you might have to offer the option. You know what I mean? Yeah. And a lot of times, unfortunately, they have better warranties. They got lifetime warranties or 3-year warranties. So, I think that, we got to start, digging our heels in a little bit. We got to start looking out for ourselves. I'm there to sell parts. I'm there to sell service, but it's going to be a challenge with some of the higher mileage the cars coming in, the more of that you're getting.
Yeah. Well, and on that, we appreciate Dave Rogers, you being on the show, being back again for a repeat performance. We enjoy the topics you bring and the conversation. Dave Rogers, Director of Fixed Ops, Piazza Auto Group. Thanks for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me, guys. Again, happy birthday, Sam.
Hey, thank you. That is fun. I love the conversations with him and the different things he's thinking about. A lot of comments on social from Superfan. Hikes in MSRP are getting out of control. Hikes in parts is also getting out of control. Tariffs are killing it. I hate when the economy is being driven by politics. No more political comment, but I had to say this one. And then Yoga Car says OEMs have better margins on parts, but total gross on the vehicles. I would say our own wholesale parts operation, it's super tight margins. Like nobody in automotive, I should have asked him this, but like nobody's crushing it on parts margin from OEM to retail. And then Dan C says, love the Fixed Ops Friday shows. Thanks for giving visibility to an underappreciated portion of the retail automotive industry. And by the way, that's what we're here for. We want to cast light in every part of automotive. and bring it to all of us.
Happy birthday,
for
Sam.
Conversation. And Michelle,
birthday.
thank you.
Happy birthday.
Hey, look at all
Happy
that.
birthday. Look at
Now,
that. Yeah, looks 35.
Hey,
I agree.
by the way, I like that 35. That's awesome. I'll own that, and I'm gonna stick with it. I like that, Prince of Sam Darkness. That's awesome. Well, to our loyal listening audience, thanks for being here. Hope to see as many of you as we can. NADA, we'll see you back. We'll see you back on Monday. Thanks for watching Daily Deal Live, where we break down the biggest moves in the car business as they happen. Don't forget, we're here live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern. So if this is your world, as always, hit like, subscribe, turn on those notifications so you never, ever miss a beat. And we'll see you next episode, everybody. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.